Good morning, everybody. This is IGTV, and my name is Joe Kincannon. Behind me on the screen is William H. Murray with the INFRAGARD editorial. And Bill, take it away.
Focus on the data, not the technology. In the early days of computer security, access control policy was based on two ideas: need to know and least privilege. We rarely hear these ideas today. The first said that only those who needed access to the data should be able to see it. The second said that one should be restricted to the least or to the smallest possible set of privileges and capabilities. Cheswick and Belevin, in their seminal work on network security, talked about four fundamental policy positions. The first is paranoid, that is, stay at home, preferably under the bed, and do not connect to anyone or anything. Two is restrictive, that is, everything that is not explicitly permitted is implicitly forbidden. Three is permissive, everything that is not forbidden is implicitly permitted. Antivirus is an example of permissive policy and illustrates its limitations. The last is promiscuous. Not only is everything permitted, but there's no control or mechanism in place to restrict anything, even if we wanted to. Promiscuous is by default, is by definition, the default policy. One might well ask why anyone would want to be in positions 1 or 4, and it's now difficult to remember. However, as recently as 20 years ago, those were the dominant positions. Most business enterprises operated their own networks, and primarily for security reasons, resisted any connection to the public networks, particularly the internet. While dial-up was the problem, the internet was the fear. The original policy of the Internet Protocol was promiscuous. It was open as to attachment, protocol, application, think ports, and traffic. Anyone could attach, any use was allowed. Moreover, it was cheap. One could get a connection for the cost of a phone number or a P.O. box. One could send a message for the cost of a postage stamp or a phone call. There was no control mechanism. There were no control points. This was in sharp contrast to the competing network architecture of the day, IBM's SNA SDLC, which provided a control point where attachments were bound at system initialization time. Said another way, a new device could not interoperate with an SNA network until it was provisioned at the system network control point, and that control point had been reinitialized to incorporate the pointers to the new device. It can be argued that the promiscuous policy was responsible for TCP/IP driving SNA SDLC from the market. On the other hand, it can be equally well argued that many, not to say most, of today's security problems stem from this policy. Today, the dominant network and client system policy remains the permissive policy. While the perimeter firewall may restrict access to, that is, blacklist, a small set of sites known to be hostile, for the most part, all of the internet is available to most users. Within the enterprise, most users have access to most applications and most data. Most managers and professionals can install, modify, and use any application or program that they choose. One of the most attractive features of the permissive policy is that whether one uses rules-based or risk-based access control, it has minimized the amount of administrative activity and the requirement for special knowledge. However, we may be reaching a tipping point where the bad things that we have to blacklist is a longer list than the things that we want people to be able to do. Both need to know and least privilege are examples of the restrictive policy. The idea of need to know worked reasonably well in a mainframe system when only the most sensitive data within the enterprise had been converted to digital. Need to know is part of the definition of confidential data. Most of the data within most enterprises was public on paper, and need to know did not apply to it. As the computer got cheaper and its applications expanded to include that paper data, the policy for it, permissive, became the dominant policy. The idea of least privilege was primarily an integrity policy. In the mainframe, it was used to resist the contamination of system and application programs and the fraudulent alteration of the books of account. As we moved from multi-user systems to single-user, and particularly to user-managed, can you say bring your own device, the application of this policy was all but disappeared. The threat environment continues to change from natural to man-made, insider to outsider, individual to organized, mischievous to criminal, opportunistic to planned and targeted, and casual to persistent. I would argue that the permissive policy has never served us very well, but that as this shift continues, it is less and less effective. Today, the most favored attack mode is a multi-step attack. The first step is to offer a carefully crafted bait message to one or more users inside the enterprise. Hidden inside this message is a URL, the hook. Clicking on the bait causes the browser to import and interpret the object referenced by the URL. Malware, belonging to and operating on behalf of the attacker. The role of the malware includes establishing a communications tunnel to the attacker's command and control node, compromise of additional nodes, and to enable the attacker to execute arbitrary program functions. Said another way, today's threat and attacks exploit the pervasive and permissive policy. Most of these attacks have one of two objectives. The first is financial account takeover, and the second, collecting intelligence and exfiltrating it via the tunnels. The former is detected early, but the latter is increasingly slow, silent, patient, and persistent. These espionage attacks are often months to years old when detected. Moreover, the longer a network is compromised, the more difficult and costly it is to sanitize it. Therefore, more restrictive policies are particularly indicated for the targets of espionage and financial fraud. They will limit the attack surface, resist these attacks, and continue to protect the most sensitive data and applications, even when there are compromised systems on the network. What goes around comes around. In response to the change in threat environment and attack mode, a change in policy is indicated. One can see this in all the new products on the market for, quote, whitelisting, unquote, for restrictive policy. There are new products to implement this policy, from the firewall to the network interface card, from email to online banking, from servers to iPads. However, policy should drive product selection, not the other way around. Note that the restrictive policy is easier to apply in closed networks, like Lotus Notes, and closed systems, like the AS400. Of course, we should be using these systems and their sophisticated access control models for that information that is the target of espionage. We ought to be doing this in any case. Just as we do at the border, in networks, systems, applications, databases, and file systems, we will continue to use a combination of permissive and restrictive policies. Blacklisting and whitelisting. We could not move to either exclusively, even if we wanted to. I urge my information assurance colleagues to give serious consideration to moving to a more restrictive policy to reduce both risk and cost. I urge law enforcement and forensic professionals to support this effort on the basis that the fewer people who could have done something, the easier it's going to be to do investigations and fix accountability. Such a change in policy is one more opportunity for us to earn the appellation of professional and the big bucks that go with it. See you next week.
Thanks, Bill, and I certainly appreciate it and appreciate your comments. And just for everybody, so that they realize, Bill Murray is on IGTV every week, providing the INFRAGARD editorial. And Bill can also be found on the IGTV channel on YouTube, and all of his editorials are up there as well. All right, Bill, thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye now. All right, so well, the audio's coming in crystal clear now. Okay, so whatever we had to overcome there, I guess we overcame some of it, and maybe that was just our audio link with our outside telephone callers, and we'll have to get that up to speed. All right, and it's 9:57. We're going to take off to a short commercial here from our friends over at Microsoft, and we will be right back right after this word from Microsoft.
Hey, I'm David. The other day I was hanging with my roommates and I was thinking, mowing down zombies is cool and all, but I kind of want to know what they're like on the inside. Then Windows 7 comes out, and now I can stream internet stuff wirelessly from the PC to there.
The zombie forms a loving bond with his fellow man-eater, the Great White.
Suddenly, the dead don't seem so dead to me. I'm a PC, and Windows 7 was my idea.
And we're back, everybody, and good morning and welcome to IGTV. If you're just tuning in, this is IGTV, a production of New York City Metro INFRAGARD Members Alliance, and we're glad you could join the program today, just before the 10 o'clock hour here. And let me see, what do we got cooking coming up at 10 o'clock? And that's 11. Oh, okay, so we have the TEACS program coming up next. All right, and that comes from our friends over at Texas A&M University. But right before we do that, the quick update for everybody. All right, coming up on the 10th of this month will be the INFRAGARD Security Summit, which is a little bit unusual because we usually do it on Wednesday. This month it's going to be on Tuesday, so that our Tuesday IGTV program is going to roll over to Wednesday. What we're doing is we're swapping both of them. All right, that way we can get the venue that we needed over at Cisco Systems, as well as get IGTV done that week. All right, so that's a bit of a program note for everybody that's out there, and we hope that you can join with us on that. The other thing which we do want to let everybody know is that we had an election earlier this year in May, all right, and that was ratified at the June board meeting. We have our bylaws, which we hope to get up on the website, and quite frankly update our board members on the website as well, because we do have a new board member up, and that is Michael Baldassar, and he is our treasurer. And I guess that's the most of it, what's going on internally here at INFRAGARD. And as you heard, it's 10 o'clock. So here we go over to Natalie Granado, and we're going to learn a little bit about TEAC. T-E-E-X. Here it comes. Hello, everybody, and welcome to IGTV, a production of New York City Metro INFRAGARD Members Alliance, Inc. We're coming to you live from our studios here in New York City, and we're going to welcome on the program in just a few minutes Natalie Granado. And Natalie is from TEAC, all right? That is a program out of Texas A&M University down in Texas. And one of our board members found Natalie at a training event he was attending here in New York City. And Natalie will come on the program, explain what's going on with TEEX. I think correctly pronounced TEAC. All right, and here she comes. Hey, Natalie, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. Hey, listen, am I saying this correctly? Is it teak?
Teaks.
Teaks. Okay, so tell us, what can you tell us about the program?
Well, okay. To start out with, let's talk about what types of things are coming from Teaks in terms of cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is increasingly becoming a concern for our nation. In 2011, we saw a huge increase in cyber crime, lots of different kinds of cyber attacks, and those attacks and crimes are happening and affecting our industrial partners and citizens all over the nation. Our bigger concern to this, though, with cybersecurity is how a coordinated or a blended attack, and what that is it's a cyber plus a physical attack, could impact our critical infrastructures, such as our power, our water, our financial systems, and even our 911 systems. What we're concerned about is having a blended attack that would affect or stop the availability of the services that we would expect to get from those critical services. And so what's really needed is a coordinated cybersecurity program to help us with our nation, our states, our communities to detect, prepare, respond, and recover from any sort of cyber incident. Now, there are a number of initiatives that are coming out of the national level to help us with those types of things, but where we're seeing a huge gap is at the local level. So how do communities prepare for a cyber event of any sort? And in response to that gap, we have the Community Cybersecurity Maturity Model. Now, Community Cybersecurity Maturity Model, which is the CCSMM, was developed to address exactly how we at our community level, at that local level, can improve our cybersecurity posture. And so as part of that model, what TEAKS is doing at Texas A&M system is we have training that's available to those folks at the local level. This training is free it's paid for by the Department of Homeland Security through a grant that goes through the NDPC, which is the National Domestic and Preparedness Consortium. And TEAKS is a member of that consortium. The training that we have are 3 face-to-face deliveries that include training that is for our emergency management and exercise planners within a community. And then we have 10 online courses that are available to anyone, all of our citizens throughout the United States, any local jurisdictions. All of those 10 online courses are available to folks to be able to prepare and to become more aware in the cybersecurity arena.
Well, you know, Natalie, this is interesting. Said the training is free to local levels and it's paid by DHS and FEMA, huh? Yes? Okay, I didn't get your audio on that one. All right. How do people go about securing the funding? Where does it come from? We've lost your audio. Okay. We're going to go to a break right here, folks, until we can get Natalie back on the program. You're listening to IGTV, and we're coming to you live from our studios here in New York. And we'll be back right after this commercial. And we're back, everybody. This is our second segment with Natalie Granado, and Natalie is from TEAK. All right, from Texas A&M system. I guess it's a part of Texas A&M University down in Texas. Let me ground down the house music here a little bit. Natalie, where we left you off last, we were talking about the training is free to local levels. Can you just go over one more time now? This is a DHS funded program, correct? All right.
Correct.
And how do I get that? If I'm INFRAGARD, or if I'm somebody else from the local community that wants to go after that funding, how do I do it?
Now, to utilize these courses to actually to take advantage of the training that's available, this is all part of a presidential directive, and that funding comes from the presidential budget and goes to the NDPC. So those 10 online courses that I had mentioned previously, all you have to do is go to teaks.com, and you can register for the courses right there online, and take full advantage of them. You can register for all 10 courses and are able to stop when you want to, start when you want to, et cetera, et cetera. So you can take advantage of those. The face-to-face courses are a little harder to come by because the funding is a little bit tight, but basically you would go through your state administrative agency and request those, and then what they do is we bring those face-to-face deliveries to the state, and then you could actually register for to be a participant for those courses at that time.
All right, that sounds fairly straightforward. Incredible for a federal program. All right. Yeah. Well, most of these federal programs are quite difficult. They're filled with a lot of paperwork and a lot of bureaucracy, but that seems fairly straightforward. Here in New York City, obviously, we probably wouldn't go through the state guide, but they have given part of this to New York City OEM. The Office of Emergency Management here in New York City. So that's probably where the local people would go here. All right, you had mentioned something before about the community cybersecurity maturity model. Would you expand on that a little bit and keep going through the program so our listeners know what's going on?
Happy to, absolutely. The maturity model was developed by the University of Texas at San Antonio, and the reason that it was developed was to help communities improve their cybersecurity posture. It's addressing a plan that's needed for communities to build their individual cybersecurity programs so that they can protect, respond, recover from any sort of cyber event. That model has 5 different levels that increases their cybersecurity improvement. Basically, you would start at level 1, and you would increase with your cybersecurity program. You would increase in cybersecurity awareness, in cybersecurity information sharing, planning, and processes. So those 4 very specific areas, or what we call dimensions, are all addressed in the cybersecurity maturity model so that we can get better in our programs. And essentially what this model does for us is it allows us to measure exactly where we are, and it provides us a roadmap so that we know exactly where we're going in terms of cybersecurity, and it gives us a common point of reference so that we actually can talk about our cybersecurity programs at the community level, at that local level. Because right now today, if you were to go to someone and say, hey, how's your security posture in New York City? And we really don't know how to talk about that. So with this model now, we know basically how to communicate that. So where is our maturity? Are we at level 1 or are we at level 5? So increasing how good we are at cybersecurity. And then how are we addressing it in terms of the awareness, information sharing, and our processes and procedures, and in planning. So now we actually have a way to talk about our cybersecurity posture. And that is, in a nutshell, really what the CCSMM, or the Community Cybersecurity Maturity Model, is all about.
Wow, that is very, very cool. It is something we're constantly trying to wrap our arms around here in New York City, and that, quite frankly, is how do you measure your level of preparedness? All right, I think a lot of us have some anecdotal information, but not everybody always is up to speed on how you can do that. Providing additional tools to the community, of course, is a great way to go, and that sounds like one of the things that TEAKS does.
Exactly. Absolutely. Those courses that we provide are available to folks so that we can help them at the local level. And where we're at right now is basically at that awareness level. We're at the beginning stages of addressing how do we deal with cybersecurity issues, and what specifically do we need to do to get better at our cybersecurity practices. So that is exactly what TEACS is out there doing, and we're doing it not in a silo, but we're doing it in a program that is meant to help everyone get better in their cybersecurity posture.
Well, as we go forward with you and our discussion with TEAC, we hope to be able to participate in some way to help the awareness, the information sharing, the processing, and the planning as we move forward here at INFRAGARD as well. All right, Natalie, we want to welcome you onto the program today, and hopefully the information sharing will continue as we get a little bit more familiar with TEAC, T-E-E-X. All right, that's 2 E's and an X, TEAC. All right, exactly. So thank you very much. All right, and we'll look forward to hopefully hearing more from you in the future as this program grows.
I'd be happy to come back out and let you know where we're at.
All right, the house music is back up. That's it for today. Thank you, Natalie. We'll look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you.
Bye now. And we're back, everybody, and good morning and welcome to IGTV, a production of New York City Metro INFRAGARD Members Alliance. And we were just listening to TEAC, T-E-E-X, and that comes from Texas A&M System. All right, and a very, very good program for preparedness. And if your organization is interested, they should contact the New York City Office of Emergency Management, preparedness programs, and look to get access to that program. Certainly thank you for viewing that piece. We're going to go now to Valine Skrpek and our next piece on biometrics. And here it comes. Hello everybody and welcome to IGTV. This is a production of New York City Metro INFRAGARD Members Alliance. We have with us today Valine Skrpek, and we're going into iBiometrics. Hello, Valine. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, how are you?
Good morning. So today we're going to be talking about facial biometrics, and
right.
I guess many different applications in that area. But I'll let you lead the talk off. This is your time. All right. Why don't you get right into it?
Okay, great. Thanks for the intro. I'd like to discuss the facial biometrics recognition, essentially a tsunami. It's beginning to shake our application and privacy policy paradigm. Much of what I want to talk about today is based on a workshop that was held in December of 2011 by the Federal Trade Commission, commonly referred to as the FTC. And I'm going to provide links to that workshop. They have wonderful transcripts and full recordings. It's really very good. And in addition to what you might think were just the consumer advocacy and policy groups, there was a host of technology vendors and experts there, which really added to it and made it a great workshop. And people such as Face.com, who offer a facial biometric API, as well as big applications like Google and Facebook were represented. So we're going to take a look at basically first the technology piece. Then we'll move into the applications, which are basically everywhere. And then just briefly touch on the policy point strategy and wrap up with kind of where it's going. Well, at the workshop, Dr. Gross was there. He's a postdoctorate fellow at Carnegie Mellon University. And he talked about the challenges of facial recognition and the amazing strides it's made. The technology started in 1973 using about 20 research subjects. And compare that today, where we now have massive data, due to our social applications and the internet, etc. where you hear people like Face.com there, and they purported to have indexed 13 billion facial images. Wow, 13 billion was quite a difference from 20 research subjects. A lot more data. So if we use our basic biometrics model, which we covered in previous sessions, we're going to note when we talk about the technology that it uses that same architecture that we talked about for identification and verification purposes. So specifically for face biometrics, there's the first step is face detection, where we're finding the face in the image. Next is a normalization, and then the feature extraction and mapping. So those are the 4 steps specifically for face. So the detection, as I noted, actually finds the face on the image. The normalization step filters out kind of all this extra information. There's techniques to do that. The feature extraction is where we really pull in the features of the face. And there's, I think one of the vendors claims they use 66 features, and things like the distance between the eyes, the contour of the lips, etc. And then, as part of this, it creates the biometric or mathematical model of those features so we can process it. And then a matching step obviously matches to either a whole gallery of pictures, or if you're verifying, you may have a particular person or a set of images for that person. So he talked about really the differences there and the huge strides that have been made in that area. And the second speaker, Dr. Jonathan Phillips, who's a leading technologist at NIST, has been performing research in this area since '93. And that's where he started the face recognition technology program called FERET, F-E-R-E-T. And so he's been doing that since. And again, using our basic biometrics, which are covered in previous sessions, we recall that there are false acceptance and false rejection rates that are measurements of the errors within the biometric identification and its accuracy. So he's saying that in '93, he was experiencing false rejection rates of 79%. In 2000, yeah.
That sounds like a great area where we can probably come back in our second segment.
Okay.
All right, we'll pick it up with NIST as we come back with Valine Skrpek on facial biometrics. We'll be right back, folks.
Okay.
And we're back, everybody, with Valine Skrpek of High Biometrics, and we're talking about facial biometrics. And Valine was touching upon the 4, I guess, areas of how biometrics is developed: detection, normalization, feature extraction, and matching. And she was getting a little bit into NIST and some of the false negatives and positives. And Valine, why don't you take it off from there? Go ahead. Okay,
very good. Yeah, so at this workshop that Dr. Phillips mentioned, which was really phenomenal, that in '93, through his research and development FERET program, he was getting rejection rates of 79%. In 2002, given the improved data, amount of data, quality of data, he was getting rates of 20%. And now, since then, really within the 10 years, we've really seen something absolutely phenomenal happening, where he's now seeing rates of 0.003. That's way less than 1%. So you see really that this is going to have a huge impact on the way we're processing faces. And so the work he's been doing has been on sort of mugshots, high quality input. So now he's really focusing in on, well, what if I don't have such great input quality? And that's kind of where he's going with that. Well, let's look at the applications next. So, of course, we have our traditional applications in government for border control, law enforcement, and military. And in the enterprise, I think it's pretty much an option that is used comfortably, where individuals can get convenient access to their own PC with vendors like BioTrust. It's kind of a win login replacement. Some people love it. Some people are not so crazy about it. If, they feel like it's too sensitive. But what's nice there is it does let you re-enroll, so you have different images, so that there'll be more of an acceptance for environmental conditions like, changing your place or the lighting, etc. Of course, the big applications are in the area of social media. So applications like Google and Facebook, and of course the whole photo tagging, finding your friends, etc., is very big. And I think we know there have been, some privacy issues, concerns with that, but also people really loving it with their own friends. And here we start to see really a difference too in that first step, which we talked about as detection. They're also incorporating into that some classification techniques where is it male, is it female? We may not go all the way down to the recognition level, but here we see a lot of uses. For example, I think people heard about the billboard application where you stand in front of it and, face recognition instead of just a camera to kind of do some analysis and, automate the fact that what kind of, people are watching, what age, what gender, etc. And all this is an important part of the whole sort of business model of the internet as well for advertising. So we see it coming into that. But when a lot of people, when you get into the privacy concerns at the time when it was sort of became more public, last year, like last summer, there was this word creepy that came in. And people realized if you combine that technique with, for example, where somebody's located, etc., all of a sudden you can kind of apply a name to a face of complete strangers. And this really seems to be going over the line. So you see also sites like face.com, though kind of one of many, but they're pretty big. They offer an API. So, just like Google and Facebook can use it, there are other applications can use it. A lot of sort of fun applications out there. Kind of one where it's kind of similar. They use a site where, like, it's a dating site. They help you find somebody biometrically similar, and they feel that will, help them find the right mate. So all these things, of course, get on that line and calls for, of course, privacy and policy kinds of regulations. And what you note at this conference also is that the vendors themselves are really looking for some policy to be put in place, and they're in favor of privacy frameworks that they can plug into, etc. I mean, right now they're working on, I think it's good, they publish, their best practices and how they handle their data, so that's good. So if we look at the direction of the technology, Dr. Gross talked about, who we mentioned up front at the conference, talks about 3D modeling to overcome some of the challenges with the fact that oftentimes the input data now, people are in different poses. So that's now possible with all this extra data. And Dr. Phillips, who we talked about, is working on the quality images, trying to utilize images with maybe light differences, etc. I'm thinking that if we really are able to get a real database of 300 million people down the road, that certainly the accuracy can approach very, very high, even given some of the challenges of facial recognition. And then I personally see that within the biometric realm, used with biometric fusion, such as voice at an ATM, is definitely another direction.
Well, we're
for today.
Yeah, well, you've covered a great swath of areas there. All right, that is facial biometrics, Valine Skrpek from iBiometrics, and don't forget to visit Valine's blog, where she lists a lot of the FTC workshop links, papers, PowerPoints, and things of that nature, which everybody can pick up on. As we say here at INFRAGARD, the education continues. All right, it just doesn't stop here at your doorstep. You got to go out and open the door and get more information as you march on.